Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to episode 35 of El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation, and packing for walking the road to Santiago, El Camino de Santiago, as well as tips, tricks, and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. We're going to put more belts in your boots, more K's in your days. We're going to take the grim out of the pilgrimage. We are going to keep your Camino de Santiago dreams alive. We hope you can be on that pilgrimage trail sooner rather than later. So there's no better time than to listen to this week's podcast, which is an interview with a lovely, entertaining, inspiring, adorable lady. She's 67 years young from the USA, right there across the pond. And before we dive into that interview, I would just like to mention, if you don't mind, a couple of things. Firstly, if you are a pilgrim that's already walked the road to Santiago, if you've already completed a pilgrimage, then I would love to hear from you and possibly, if I'm lucky enough, get an hour of your time to interview you to help those that are about to go on the Camino for the first time, or those that are returning and are looking to refine their habits and routines. As a thank you, I'll send you a copy of my Amazon bestseller, my Camino Frances memoir, which is called The Only Way is West. The most recent 5-star review, which was posted on the 24th of March 2020, goes a little something like this. The headline reads, "Light-hearted, entertaining and inspiring read. I really enjoyed reading Brad's tales on the Camino and the various characters that crossed his path. It was also inspiring to read about how the Camino had such an impact on his life. It makes me want to walk the Camino too." So, if you've walked the Camino and you would be kind enough to gift me an hour of your time, I'll send you, as I said, a thank you of my book, which is called The Only Way is West, and that's on Amazon. So, secondly, before we get to the interview, I started a Patreon page because I spend lots of time searching for pilgrims to interview, conducting the interviews, editing them, and also finding links to the places, products, and services they recommend. In short, I put the same amount of time as a part-time job into creating these weekly episodes for Camino de Santiago pilgrims. So I'd be eternally grateful if you could help me to help other pilgrims by pledging your support for the podcast via our Patreon page, which is www.patreon.com/pilgrims podcast. That's www.patreon.com/pilgrims podcast. And you can pledge as much as you want to support, whether it's €5, €10, €20, or just simply €1 or $1, whatever it may be. I'll be very, very grateful for your support and helping me to help other pilgrims. Okay, so that's the announcements out of the way for this week. I'll hand you over now to the lovely Cathy Seitchik Diaz.
We have completed 5 Caminos. We did the first one, started actually we do the same date every year, April 12th, 2015. And then we did another one, 2016, same time, 2017, 2018, and 2019. So 5 so far.
And are they all different Caminos?
No, they're the same.
Right.
The reason is, on the first Camino, you just do what you do, and how it happens, it happens. And I started having knee problems in Hornillos, and I kept walking, limping until León. And my son at the time, he kept on saying, "Mom, you can't hurt yourself. You can stop." So I went to a doctor and at a hospital in León, and this was on a Friday, about the 5th of May, and they said, "Come back Monday." And I said, for x-rays and sonogram and things like that. And I said, "I can't, I'm walking the Camino." And he said, "No, you're not." So I went to a physical therapist. Of course, I met with other pilgrims in Calle Ancha in León, and they guided me to go to a physical therapist, Roberto, who's been our good friend since. And he helped me again on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And when I went into the doctor for the sonogram and x-rays on Monday, he said I didn't have a torn meniscus or anything, but, that would stop me permanently. I needed to take off a week. So I adjusted to that mentally and emotionally with David. David and I have done all 5 together. And we stayed in Leon till Wednesday, getting the physical therapy. And then we took a train to Ponferrada, where our other Camino friends would have walked to at that point. It was very difficult and sad to see. No, we took a bus to see Peter from Germany walking as we were on the bus. But we got to Ponferrada, and there were some of our friends. And then they continued walking, and we stayed in Ponferrada for a few more days, probably till Saturday or Sunday, and took a train to Soria. Again, the same timing where we would have gotten if we had been walking. We walk about 12 to 14 miles a day. So by the time I got to Soria, my knee was better. I can explain to you why and what happened, but that's the story right there. And so we kept walking. And then after probably a few days, David knows that I loved it. He said we could come back next year and we could walk from Leon to Soria. And I said, okay, you know how many people do 2 weeks at a time, or they come back and do pieces. And then probably within a day or two, he said, why don't we just come back and do the whole thing? And I said, great. So when we went back to do the whole thing the next year, it was such a delight to show up in Orasan and know Jean-Jacques and Panchita and the people there, and then to show up the next day in Roncesvalles and Zubiri and know them and give them hugs and say hello, that it was a delight. And then when we walked from Leon to Soria, it was such a delight to go in the areas that we had never seen. We never made it to the Cruz de Ferro the first year and all those places, and so that was a delight. And then walking from Soria to Santiago, again, it was being able to see people and people in the farmacias that we had seen and met and things like that in the albergues. So the second year, I just started saying to them, nos vemos en un año. I'll see you next year. And we will see you next year. And so we came back the third year, and we've been doing it since.
So you had some knee problems that first year you did it. What changes did you make the second time you went so you wouldn't have knee problems? What did you learn from that, and what advice would you give to those that potentially could suffer similar ailments?
Well, I don't think my knee problem is probably the same problem somebody else would have, but I'll tell it to you, even though it's quite embarrassing, but that's okay. I'm used to myself at age 67. I sort of like to eat. And I have the capability of actually gaining weight on the Camino because I could just eat all that delicious food and more than maybe the average. So I decided to eat sunflower seeds because they're very time consuming. And by the time you open up every sunflower seed, it's really not that many. And I'd been doing that probably, I don't know, since Zubiri all the way to Hornillos. And I noticed my knees were stiff and I couldn't really squat, and they were a little swollen, and so I just continued on. And when I got to Leon, and the doctor said I was okay, but I just had to get the swelling down, so I had no idea about the sunflower seeds at this point. One of David's nieces said to me, now remember, no salt. And I thought, no salt? Oh my goodness, I'd been going to sleep every night with sort of like salt in my mouth. But I didn't care because it was sunflower seeds and it was preventing me from eating all the other delicious food too much. And I stopped the sunflower seeds and I stopped the salt. So I guess the only suggestion I could say is don't have too much salt because it retains something and it's not good. So that was what happened.
So did that cause your knee to swell up then?
Yes, it did. It did. And I don't eat much. I'm a very healthy eater mostly, and even there I was healthy. I eat mostly things that I buy, things to make salads, and other people will be making their baguettes, and I'll be getting like lettuce and putting turkey and cheese in it instead of bread. I'm a very healthy eater, and I don't normally have salt in my diet. So my body was not used to it.
So it was an unusual chase.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so the more of the story is don't have too much salt, but try and enjoy as much of the food as possible. And if you do,
it could happen to other people, yes.
and
Because they're not used to eating in restaurants.
for those idle fingers as well, sometimes those sunflower seeds can be quite entertaining and time filling, can't they?
Yes, exactly.
So, knowing what you knew from your first Camino going to your subsequent Caminos, was there any changes you made to your training to make sure you were in prime tip-top shape and there wouldn't be a repeat?
Well, before the first Camino, David and I had been doing some kind of exercise called P90X or beach body something or other, some kind of CDs that you do at home. And it was really good exercise. We'd been doing it for 3 years. And then, and I had been a walker for many years. He had been a golfer for many years, but you use carts at this point. So before the first Camino, we started walking quite a bit, like I'd say 1, 2, 3 hours a day, sometimes 4 and 5. So 6, 7, 8 miles, sometimes 10, 12, things like that. So I think that helped us in the first. And then we continued when we came back after the first time, walking a lot every day. And so I would say that has been very, very good for us. Not only walking for the physical part, but then the mental part, walking that many hours, 5, 6 hours every day. For David, it's easier because he doesn't mind being alone and just out there walking and listening to the birds and looking at nature. But
I'm assuming David is your husband. Is that correct?
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to listen to music really quietly so I can still hear the birds and hear other people and bicycles coming behind us on the Camino. So for myself and for David, what we've just learned is we just stay continually, consistently, physically active, and that has helped. 2.5 years ago, I started a new exercise program, myself, not David, called Orange Theory and Fitness, and they have 1,000 all over the United States and 200 or 300 around the world, and I have found that to give me great strength. And last year when I did the Camino, I decided each time I came to a hill or an incline, those every little incline to come into the towns before the Meseta, every time you look up and go, Zubiri is up there and, this is up there. And it was just crazy. I would power up, sort of just get all my strength and that helped me. So, but I think I'm a little different than the average bear in that way.
So regular walking, and that was your key to staying fit and healthy on your subsequent Caminos. Great stuff. And some crazy training programs that you mentioned there. Could you just repeat those for me? There were the PX90, you said?
Okay, we did P90X.
P90X,
which is also called like beach body, something like that. And then the most recent is called Orange Theory, Fitness, and it's wonderful because they're so international. I went to one when I was in Madrid after the last Camino, and one in Monterrey, Mexico, when I visited my son, and there's another one in Germany. And when we did Machu Picchu in September, I went to one in Lima. So they're everywhere, and that exercise program is similar to P90X, but P90X you do at home by yourself, and it's pretty much the same, whereas Orange Theory Fitness changes every day. It's the same all over the world, so whatever workout I did here today, somebody else also did in Madrid or Miami, but every day it changes, and it's weights, and it's treadmill cardio, and it's rowing machine.
Okay,
and they tell you what to do, and I do it.
Good stuff. I'll put a link to that on our Facebook page, Camino de Santiago
sweet.
Pilgrims
Okay.
podcast, so people know exactly what you're referring to. Now, you've talked about obviously being on the Camino. You know the Camino Frances very well by the sounds of it. You've mentioned various places so far. You've mentioned Oreson in the Pyrenees. You've mentioned Zubiri. You mentioned Leon, Sarria. And I'm just wondering if out of all of those places you could recommend one specific albergue to stay at along the way.
Oh my goodness gracious. One specific albergue to stay on along the way.
There must have been a favorite
That would be,
that stands
I mean,
out.
I will answer that to the best I can, but that would be hard because at this point, when I leave, for example, Puente de la Reina, where we have been 5 times, I'm actually walking to Estella and excited to see the next people that I know there. So, to rave about Agora Hostel and Estella more than Albergue Puente and Puente de la Reina would be difficult. But I can say that I've noticed, for example, in Estella, which Estella is, people will walk many times from Pamplona to Puente de la Reina to Estella to Los Arcos and Vienna. Those are pretty significant ones that people are familiar with. I found that in Estella, there was this hostel called Agora Hostel, and I'm finding that it's not uncommon what they did. I've seen it a little bit since then, but their hostel is very new and clean, and each bunk bed has a curtain to it with a light inside and 2 plugs, and even on one of the floors they have an all women's bathroom, which is really nice for lots of women. So that was a really, really special and unique one. Not saying that when my other friends listen to this podcast in the other albergues in Vienna and Navarrete and Asafro and Santo Domingo, theirs are not also wonderful. But I did find that albergue in Estella and others that are doing the same, having a nice private, clean bunk bed with a curtain, was really pleasant.
No, it's those small mercies that you find along the Camino that mean so much. And like you say, just the gold dust of a plug socket by your bed for those people that want to charge their phone. Sometimes you walk into an albergue, you walk around with your charger, trying to find a socket. I'll stick it in there for a bit, but I can't leave it because someone else is going to get that bed. It's a big dilemma choosing which bed and why, and one with a plug socket. But it sounds like that ticks all the boxes. And those privacy screens, those towels acting as privacy screens, and the all women's bathroom, which is a great thing for the women's privacy. So that's a very modern Agora hostel in Estella, which is in Navarre in the Basque Country. So look that up, and I'll find it and put a link to our Facebook page. And like you say, you're not choosing one over the other, but you can recommend that one just for those practicalities that it's got there, and help with those practicalities. So that's a great recommendation. Thank you very much, Cathy. Now, we're going to put you on the spot again. What's your favourite city, town or village along the way?
Oh, okay. Again, I love them all because I feel like I have a personal relationship with them. When we start from the very beginning, of course, Pamplona is so amazing because it's big and it's... I love all the medieval areas, and then we would go to... I'll tell you in a minute, maybe my favorite. And then Santo Domingo, of course, because of the huge church and the chicken story in the church, which is amazing. And Burgos, oh my goodness, like the cathedral there is just to die for.
You're the third person in a row that said that. 3 weeks in a row you've mentioned someone's recommending Burgos.
Yes. And then we recently learned, well, not recently, maybe on the 3rd or 4th Camino, about the amazing museum that they have there, because Atapuerca is the findings of beginning people and animals, and you would know more the right terminology than that. But
well, it's a very significant archaeological spot, isn't it, Atapuerca? I think
exactly.
They found the remains of
there is amazing.
Some of the first settlers in that area. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really amazing. And I suppose the other thing that I would say is, of course, I love Saogun because it's getting like more halfway. There's something really special about getting to Leon. It's just like you really feel like you've made it halfway. And then there's Calle Ancha right in the middle, straight up to the cathedral, which is so magical. You just like walk up to the edge of Calle Ancha and then boom, there it is. Everybody's out in the cafes. You just go walking and you see somebody that you met from Australia, and then you see somebody that you met from South Africa, and you see somebody you haven't seen in 2 weeks, and how did they get there? And Leon is really, really special to me. And then I would say there are many special in between. So Leon and Santiago have those same kind of like, yay, look who's here. Wow, we made it. How are your feet doing? And how's your knees? And, those kinds of things.
So Leon is your recommendation for all of those
it's
aforementioned
a really
reasons.
Place.
Yeah, I'd agree
Yes.
with you. I had a lovely night in Leon and walked around the city, and it's nice because you see like the Spanish families come out at night, and you got generations and generations of family members walking together. Everyone's dressed to impress. And yeah, I think
to the hilt.
Exactly.
Dressed so gorgeous.
Yeah, and there you are walking around in your scruffy pilgrim apparel.
Everything you just said. Seeing all the families, yes.
Yeah, I love that part of it. And how about, let's talk about the 3 most important things to you on your kit list.
Okay, so the 3 most important things that I take in my backpack that for the Camino, but don't count the backpack or the socks and shoes because those are sort of a no-brainer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I know this is confrontational for some people, but it's sort of ironic and interesting to me that some people say, don't take a phone and don't have email and don't have text and don't have this and that. But as far as I'm concerned, I would take the clothes on my back and just the money I need and my phone, because that has my notes in it. It's got my maps in it. It's got my photographs in it. It's got my ability to communicate with people on the Camino and ability to communicate with family and friends that care about me being on the Camino. It is my most essential tool. So when you are speaking, almost seems like jokingly that we can say this, we're looking for a plug, or I'll notice I'll be in an albergue and I'll be like walking around like I'm mining for water and I hear a click, click. Okay, that means I have Wi-Fi, because as we know, they say we have Wi-Fi, but it doesn't mean we really do. So to me, I would say that is my most essential tool, like the Swiss Army knife of 2020. And then for me, in the first Camino, I kept on seeing how difficult or much more effort it was for me when I had to pee. So David easily can walk over to the side and he's got a simple zipper and it works. But I've got a backpack on and a waist pack on, and I have to take those off because my pants are sort of up inside of that. And then I have to move my pants down. First of all, I have to hide, and my pants are sweaty, and I have to get them back up again. So during the first Camino, I kept on saying, I want a zipper like David. And I said it all through the second Camino. So we're talking about 50 days. So because we walked to Santiago and then Finisterre and Muxia. So when I was preparing for the third Camino and I was helping somebody prepare for it, she told me she could make a pair of pants of what I wanted. So she did. And so it basically has a zipper that goes from the front, like just a little bit below my belly button, all the way down to the back, like my coccyx. So it just goes down like if a man's fly goes down the front, this goes all the way back. So she put in my pants an 8-inch zipper. And then I go to the Camino and I use this 8-inch zipper. So for women, if they're listening, you just undo this zipper and you just sort of move your pants apart like you might a bathing suit, and you just can urinate, pee. So it worked so well that as I was walking and I would see like these 3 German women and I'd realize how they're taking off their packs, and I'm like already done. It's so easy. It's just like David. I tell them about these pants. And so David comes up with the name of these pants could be called zippy pants. Zip and you pee. So they said to me they wanted zippy pants. And I said, oh, God. So I go back and I end up telling other people on the Camino, other women. And they'd bump into me. We need zippy pants. So I went back to my friend and we decided we were going to start producing zippy pants. And we had to create a website so we could send them out. So to make a long story short, I ended up selling these zippy pants all over South Africa, Germany. The first 3 women from Germany got them. And eventually then Zippo decided to sue us. So we couldn't have the name Zippy. So we changed it to EZP Pants. And I can tell you the history about what happened to that, whatever. But the point is, have a pair of pants for myself. That was my most important thing to have, is a pair of pants for myself to make it as easy for me to pee and urinate as it is for David. So that's the second thing on my list. And the third thing that I have, which is different than most people, are gloves. Fingerless gloves, because I always like to be able to use my phone to take pictures or write notes, that go all the way up to like my armpits, sort of like the bikers use, but these are really soft, like wool merino gloves, just like socks. And they really keep me warm. So everybody has a buff and that keeps their head and their necks warm, but this really keeps my arms warm because we get chilled. Or I can start off in the morning and have them on and I can just slip them off and I don't have to be like taking off my backpack to take off jackets and things like other people do. So I'd say my long gloves, my easy pee pants, and my cell phone.
Cathy, what would you say is, would you recommend a favorite restaurant that you have on the Camino? One you can recommend?
So there's so many wonderful places. And David and I end up buying things in supermercados and things like that. But I would say there's 2 places that stand out for us. One of them is in just as we're getting to Santiago. And you know, the tortillas that we eat, those egg like omelets that we eat, are fabulous and delicious in so many different places. And David eats them way more than I do, just because I eat other things like more vegetables and fruit. But there's one just as we're getting to Pedroso, and I'm going to see if I can find the name of it right now, actually. Bar Lino. It is between Arzua and Pedroso. And David says it is the best tortilla in the whole Camino that he eats. And he eats one probably every day. It is fresh. It is moist. It is just salty enough. So it's at kilometer 30. I have it written down because we go there now every year. So Barlino in between after Arzua and on the way to Pedroso, it is really delicious. It's his favorite.
That's a bold statement. Yeah, bold statement. The best tortilla on the Camino.
It is a bold statement to say the best for the tortilla because there's so many. And then the other restaurant that we think is amazing is in Pedroso, and which is unique because for many that's the night before we get to Santiago, and it has the best steak and salad. Like amazing, this huge platter that they put on the table for whoever you're sitting at the table with. And that one's called Cafe Bar O Pedroso. And it's right on the corner in sort of the downtown area, across the street from the Farmacia. And it is the best. And it's closed. That steak place, David, is closed on Monday. So when we walk the Camino and we arrive there on a Monday, we are not happy. So that's an amazing steak place. And I'm not a big steak eater. And this is the juiciest, most moist steak with delicious onions and salad. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so best tortilla on the Camino, best steak on the Camino. You cannot say any bigger a statement than that. So go and try it out for yourself. Bar Lino in Arzua and Cafe Bar O Pedroso in Pedroso. Thank you for those amazing recommendations, Cathy. Going to ask you some quick fire questions now. So if you give short, sharp answers to each, then that will enable us to fire through them. Okay, so what would be your favorite Camino blog, vlog, book, and or film?
Walking the Camino 6 Ways to Santiago.
That's a book, isn't it?
It's a documentary video. Yes, Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago.
Six
It's
Ways to
definitely
Santiago.
6 Ways to Santiago. Yes.
We may have covered
And
this
then,
next one already, but I'll just ask, just in case there's something else, another answer to it. Favorite food and or drink on the Camino, but we could have answered that already.
favorite food, and yeah, we already answered that.
So
And then I will say our favorite guidebook is John Briley's guidebook.
Okay, fantastic. So John Briley's guidebook, look those up as well. One thing you wished you'd packed, maybe on your first Camino.
One thing I wished I'd packed on my first Camino are Ziploc bags, because when I had a swollen knee and I wanted to get ice to put on it, they would give me a plastic bag and it would just drip all over. So I now take quart-sized Ziploc bags. And then I also learned, at least in the United States, we have something called NyQuil, and it's really, because they have everything on the Camino, every medicine, everything. I mean, they have everything. But NyQuil, which really helps me get rid of a cold and a cough, they don't seem to have, so now I take that.
One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again.
One thing I didn't need. The first year we took like ice packs and Advil and all kinds of medication, and now we take 10 Advils with us in a little Ziploc bag and, 6 Band-Aids, because there are farmacias everywhere. And those farmacias, when we go in, we get to talk to the for the pharmacist. I mean, they're so good, so much better than anything I've seen in the United States.
Yeah, they've got everything, so you don't really need to carry lots of that stuff. And what about a useful word to use in Spanish? Sounds like your Spanish is pretty good. So could you recommend a useful word to know in Spanish before you go? A phrase even?
Well, even simpler than that, I would say, first of all, the common language is English, as we know. And even if I start to speak Spanish to somebody in an albergue, like the hospitalero, they want to practice their English, which is fine. I do that. But for somebody who does not speak Spanish, they don't have to be worried about getting lost, because all they have to do is look up at somebody and say with a question in their voice, El Camino? And then anybody around will just take them by the arm or the hand and point them in the direction of the yellow arrows. So that was one. El Camino, that's the one thing that comes to me. Well, really nothing else, I guess, baño. But besides that, everybody speaks English well enough that you don't need anything more than that.
Definitely come in handy. And you make a question out of it that way, don't you? El Camino,
yes.
Which means, is the Camino around here? You just kind of make the inflection with the question. So great. Make the question with the inflection. Good stuff. Your favourite thing about the Camino?
I love being outside. I love moving my body. And I adore meeting all the people. I adore it.
A guilty pleasure that maybe you carried with you?
Yes, and I mean, that's another question. A guilty pleasure I carried with me? A guilty pleasure. I don't even know what that means.
Well, something like, for example, someone on a recent Camino said they liked having Netflix on their phone. Something that maybe you wouldn't necessarily normally carry with you or see as an essential, but for you it's an essential. Could be your zippy pants, couldn't it?
It could be my zippy pants. You know what? I tend to sort of have what I need all the time, so I don't think I would have a guilty pleasure. I'd either have it or I wouldn't have it.
It's a good question I like to ask, because like on the last, podcast, someone said they saw someone carrying with them a snorkel and flippers for a swim at Finisterre. Which I thought was quite funny. Sweet. So I'm not necessarily ever looking for a useful answer to that question, just a funny answer, just to give it a little bit of a different perspective. It doesn't always have to be serious. Okay, and what for you, Cathy? Potentially this could have been the problems with your knee, but the hardest part about the Camino.
I think the physical part can be hard. It's not for me now because I think I'm in pretty good shape and we don't walk more than 12 to 14 miles. So I think that's that. I think loneliness could be hard for somebody like me who likes to be with people, because I could go 2, 3, 4 hours and I maybe see some people ahead of me and behind me. So loneliness used to be hard, but now I listen to music and so that helps. And then scared or fear, because if I hurt my knee, then what do I do then? Or being sick or something.
Okay, we're going to move back to the main discussion now. So if you want to elaborate a bit more upon these questions, you're more than welcome to. Would you give a brief overview of your Camino daily routine from waking up to going to sleep?
Well, it's similar to everybody else's. They have those shirt, like, eat something or other. So it's sort of like, wake up, walk, eat, wake up, walk, eat, squeeze in a shower in between. So we get up about 6. We start walking about 7:30. We start walking together for about 10, 15 minutes, and then we're not walking together because I've stopped to take a picture, or I'm walking a little bit faster than David because we're going up a hill and I'm strong at hills. It just varies. And then we stop at cafes or bathrooms along the way, depending what's there. And then I see him or he sees me, and then we walk a little bit more together. Sometimes I walk by myself for a few hours, and then all of a sudden somebody walks by and says, "Buen camino," and we start chatting for another few hours till we get to where we're going. Then we get to our albergue. My favorite is to stay in albergues. Sometimes we stay in hostels. We've stayed in a few pensiones. And David, in the in Puente de la Reina, on our 5th day, on the first Camino, realized that there were private rooms. Some private rooms don't have bathrooms. Some do have bathrooms. And so we now stay in private rooms. That's his most comfort level. He just turned 74 yesterday or a few days ago. So, and he's private. He could sit and read all afternoon. So we'll find our albergue or hostel, which is best for me because if we have a private room, I still have other wonderful pilgrims around. And sometimes a kitchen. We'll go to a supermercado and we'll get some fruit and vegetables and things like that. We'll visit with pilgrims. Sometimes we'll sit in a cafe and eat something with other people. And we'll walk around the little town to see what's there. And then it's like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And David will write about all the history of where we are. So he'll spend time on his phone doing that. And then I'll take what he writes and add some pictures to it. And I'll spend time sending that out on Facebook so people can see it. And we probably go to bed about 9:30, something like that. And then we wake up and do the exact same thing all over again. And every few days there's laundry. And then every once in a while we have to stop at a farmacia. So it seems that's it.
And this thing that you were writing online, is there somewhere that the listeners can go to see to read what you've written?
Well, anybody could go on Instagram or Facebook and just ask to friend me, and I will friend them. My name, I'll say it and spell it, and you can type it out too, is Cathy Seitchik Diaz. So it's Cathy, Seitchik, S as in Sam, EITCHIK, Diaz, DIAZ. I put in my maiden name because Cathy Diaz, there's a million. I think I'm the only Cathy Seitchik Diaz to search for on Facebook or Instagram. And each day I will add videos and pictures of what we're doing. And each day David will write a historical information about where we are. It's really quite interesting. It's fun. It's
okay, so fun. I'll put a link to your page on our Facebook page, Cathy, so the listeners can add you and see what you've been doing on the Camino.
Great. And then also Camino Provides created a blog, I think, of our third Camino. And I could give you that link too. And that would be a blog of the whole Camino that's already been completed if somebody wants to see that.
Fantastic. If you send that to me via personal message, I can then paste that and copy that into our podcast page on Facebook.
That would be helpful to people, yes.
Love to do that. Thanks, Cathy. And money matters. How did you manage your money on the Camino? Did you have money on cards? Did you carry a certain amount of cash? How did you stay secure and safe and have the right amount of money with you always?
It's such a good question. I always like to feel like I have enough money, so I'll always have like 200 or 300 or 400 euros with me, mostly because everybody likes to be paid in cash. And I use the ATM machines like most people do, and they're wonderful. I did find that I was told after a year or two that if I got a bank card that was Charles Schwab, I went to Charles Schwab and I got I think I put in like $100, like as if I was investing, but I got an ATM card from them, and there's no 3% surcharge. So every time I go to the ATM machine, I take out €200 or whatever. I don't feel like, oh, I'm now spending also another $3 in surcharge. So Charles Schwab was a wonderful asset for me. In the first, I think probably 2 Caminos or 3 Caminos, I used my regular bank ATM card, which was fine. I always take 2 ATM cards with me, just in case the Charles Schwab doesn't work. I'll use the other one that I have.
Is that something that's unique to America, Charles Schwab? Because I've never heard of it in Europe.
It probably is unique to America, but it might not be only for Americans. I mean, anybody can sign up for anything online now these days. So, so I that would be something to investigate. I have heard other people talk about it. I take 2 credit cards, a Visa or a MasterCard, and an American Express. The American Express gives me miles, so I use that when I can. But when I can, I do that. So I have, and I take about $25 in cash. But mostly we arrive to the airport in Madrid or Paris, wherever we fly into, and we go straight to the ATM machine. We get money right then. And then we just go to the ATM machine every few days whenever we need cash. So that's the way we do it. I make sure that I have plenty of money in my bank account just in case. So I'll take money out of savings and put it into my checking kind of thing.
And when you were sleeping at night, obviously if you're staying in a hostel, you've got lots of people around. Where did you keep your money and your valuables while you slept? I kept mine in my sleeping bag with me. Literally.
Me too.
Okay, so that's what you did as well. I just wonder what other pilgrims did, whether they put it in their rucksack and tied their rucksacks to the bed, or they had a certain compartment. I just wondered if anyone else had any other practice. But okay, so you kept it in your sleeping bag as well. That sounds
yes. And when I took a shower, it was with me. It never left my body.
Yeah, I always took my stuff. We have these things called magic belts. I'm sure you got them in the USA as well. And it's just like an elasticated belt that extends to the size of whatever you put in it. So you can put your passport in there, your wallet or your purse, your phone, and you just can take that with you to the shower or inside your sleeping bag while you sleep. Okay, just before we finish, Cathy, I'd like you, if you could, to recall a funny, inspiring, perhaps quirky moment or encounter that embodies everything that's good about the Camino, and that may well be a catalyst for someone to make the decision to actually go. They might think, that sounds like the kind of place I want to be, and I want to do that. Anything that stands out? Any memory that stands out?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I can think of one specifically memory that stands out, but I'll go back to the same thing about the people. Okay, I'm not an individual traveler. I tried going to Costa Rica by myself once. I tried going to Italy with some friends, and they didn't want to be outside walking. They just wanted to go shopping and eat at restaurants. So I would do all my walking by myself. And it's too lonely for me. It's too difficult. And when people are traveling, they might be friendly with each other, but it's a whole different thing on the Camino. So on the Camino, any person who wants to, and it's mostly women that are reluctant to go by themselves, I would, if I wasn't with David, I would easily go on the Camino by myself, because we are never alone unless we want to be alone. So if I want to be alone walking, David has this technique. He'll be walking and somebody will come up and they'll go Buen Camino and they start chatting, and he just slows down a little bit and they keep walking, or he stops to go to the bathroom or something. And so we can be alone if we want to, but there's always help and there's always support wherever we are. And that, but it's everywhere. It's when I was in Leon and I needed help, or it's when I was in Zubiri and I had blisters and I need somebody to help me with my shoes. People want to help everywhere. Pilgrims want to help everywhere. And so do the hospitaleros, and so do the pharmacy people, and so do the people in cafes. So I call it a walking community. We are a walking community as we go across Spain, and we're all common. We all have this common thing, whether somebody started in Pamplona or St. John or Burgos, or maybe they didn't have as much time, so they started way off in Astoria. We're all walking towards Santiago, and we all have this commonality. And then sometimes you bump into people you saw 2 weeks ago or 3 days ago, and it's this walking community. And it's the only place I've ever experienced anything like that. And it just brings tears to my eyes because it's amazing.
And are you due to go back again this year?
Yes, we have our plane reservations for April 8th. We will land in Madrid April 9th. We will get a taxi we'll fly to Pamplona and get a taxi from Pamplona to St. John. And we plan to start walking to Orasan April 12th.
Now, one last question. April the 12th, does it have a personal significance or is it just a coincidence?
It's not a coincidence. It doesn't have a personal significance. The first time we were going to go, we had seen the movie Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago in February 2014. And I said, wow, I want to do this. We can do this. Because we didn't have to carry heavy backpacks or places to stay. That's why I knew we could do it. And I wanted to go in September, of course, because that's what they said, fall or spring. But I was working in a college and they said, could you wait till spring? So we went in spring. So we have found that middle of April till the end of May gives us the amount of time we need, and it gives us the time in spring. Summer's too hot, and fall is beautiful. People tell me how beautiful it is in the sunflowers, but we have found spring to be a really wonderful. All the albergues are new and clean. All the hospitaleros are happy and fresh, and it's our favorite time.
Cathy, as promised, I'm going to send you a copy of my Camino de Santiago memoir, The Only Way is West, as a thank you for your time and for all the amazing tips and advice you've given to the listeners. There's so much, and I know next time I go on the Camino, I know where I'm going to go for a steak and a tortilla. So I'll send that to you via email and just say buen camino, fellow peregrina, for when you go back in April.
Thank you. You are a pleasure to speak to.
So I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Cathy Seitchik Diaz, and you found her as entertaining and adorable as I did. I particularly loved the story about the zippy pants and the easy pee pants, something that made me laugh for days afterwards. So just to close this episode, as an added bonus, since I know many of you may be spending more time than usual indoors and needing a little bit more entertaining, I have attached the first chapter of my book, The Only Way is West. I hope you really enjoy this little audio sample. Until next week, buen camino, fellow peregrinos. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, stay united, and stay pleased with that Camino de Santiago insights. Keep those towers of the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela in your dreams.
Chapter 1. Date with the Devil. 2 years before I walked the Camino de Santiago, I was partying in a packed nightclub on the Greek holiday island of Corfu. I hadn't even heard of the Camino, but was about to unwittingly trigger a series of extraordinary coincidences that would guide me down the fabled pilgrim path and change my life. The first of those coincidences occurred when I bought a drink in the club and the barman handed me a €20 note in my change. Scribbled on that €20 bill was an email address. Tightening the note between my fingers, I held it up to the light and tried to focus as a drunk guy holding beer bottles in both hands barged past. Natalex_666 at whatever it was .com. Why would anyone write their email address on a banknote? Was it someone in the club wanting to chat me up? A quick scope of the dance floor didn't reveal any alluring looks. Did the account belong to a girl called Natalie? Was she a Satan worshipper? A fan of death metal music? A devil between the sheets? Then the fog of irrational thought cleared and a smile of realization flashed across my face. So this was why every attempt to impress the ladies that night had failed miserably. In a desperate bid to catch a roving eye, I'd spent the evening dancing half-heartedly to music I hated and asking women for cigarettes even though I wasn't a smoker. I'd plunged to a new low when I'd scored a smoke from some girls and tried sparking up while holding it like a pen between my shaky fingers. nowhere near my mouth. The girls had walked away, ridiculing me, and I'd felt very silly indeed. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Resorting to using the lame chat-up line that I was a singer in a rock band got the reply it deserved. "What's your band called?" "Crap Street Boys," mocked a girl with holiday braids in her hair as she looked me up and down in contempt. If anyone was on form that night, it certainly wasn't me. The reason why, though, was now obvious. Clearly, the deities of destiny were guiding me to something and someone much more exciting. The email address of a mysterious girl. Bolting through the doors of the club and out into the humid Greek summer night, I made for the nearest 24-hour internet cafe. Being out all evening had drained my mobile's battery, and it was the quickest way to get in contact. A sour-faced insomniac at the front desk with greasy hair, stubble, and storm clouds under his eyes snatched my €2 coin for an hour online. Once logged on, I shot Natalix_666 a message. Time was of the essence. I explained how and where I'd found her email address, asked if she was still in Corfu, and told her my exact location. Signing off, I popped the big question. Would she like to meet? Tonight? I dreamt of a happy ending to my ego-crushing evening. Maybe she was in that very internet cafe. My email would pop up on her screen, she'd leap from her seat, come running into my arms, and we'd skip hand in hand back to the club and fall in love doing the Macarena, the conga, or even agadoo. I sprang out of my chair, bought a Coke from a vending machine and returned to the computer. Great news! The message hadn't bounced back. The email address was real, and surely a reply was just minutes away. I stared at the screen, my fists clenched in hope. I tapped my fingers on the table. I sifted through my junk mail in case her reply had got lost somewhere among the offers of Viagra, Thai brides, and surgery to enhance my lance. I searched for her email address on the web, hoping for a lead to a phone number or social media profile, but uncovered nothing. I worried that the police might burst in and arrest me for stalking. Greek law enforcement, not Sting and his bandmates. I got bored and disheartened. My glass drained to half empty. Sobriety soon came marching around the corner with her party pooper friend realism. What if she was actually a he? Natalix could be a 6'4" rugby player called Nathan who was about to come storming in and tackle me to the ground for disturbing him in the middle of the night. Or what if she was a female but thousands of miles away and had never even set foot in Corfu? The €20 could have journeyed across countless countries and been brought there by someone else entirely. When my hour was up, I sighed disappointedly and conceded that my idea was nothing more than an inebriate's insanity, and my chances of receiving a reply were extremely slim. Imagine, then, how my socks were knocked off when, 2 years later, as I packed my bag to walk the Camino, Natalix_666 unexpectedly dropped back into my life. In that Corfu club, walking the Camino couldn't have been further from my mind. Nevertheless, a year or so later, it was a decision I made because of an entirely freak encounter on the London Underground. A second, extraordinary coincidence that would inadvertently make my world collide with Natalix_666. On a late summer Sunday afternoon, I was riding a hot and clammy tube train with heavenly cool air blowing through the carriage door window, caressing my flushed face. Somehow, in a dopey daze, I'd taken the wrong train by mistake. Realising my error, I hurried off the train when it screeched to a halt and headed for the opposite platform. Everything seemed back on track until I heard a voice frantically shouting my name. I spun around and couldn't believe my eyes. Waving his arms in a frenzy was someone I hadn't seen in 3 years. As the hordes of carrier bag-wielding passengers parted, we ran into each other's arms like long-lost brothers. After our spontaneous, somewhat clumsy hug, I stood back and took a disbelieving look at German Julian, my old roommate from university. We were both lost for words. I broke the silence. "You've still got that f***ing orange t-shirt?" I blurted out. "What the bloody hell are you doing here?" It turned out we'd just been on the same train, and he'd darted through the closing doors like Indiana Jones when he'd seen me walking past his carriage window. 20 minutes later, in a packed beer garden overlooking the barges moored in Camden Lock, Julian filled in the gaps over some cold beers as the sun toasted our shoulders. He'd flown over from Munich for the weekend to go to an art exhibition of some sort. I didn't ask too many questions about it because I was dying to know more about something he'd mentioned earlier. "Tell me about that trail you said you walked in Spain last month," I said as wisps of marijuana smoke danced past, leaving me lightheaded and boss-eyed. "Ah," he said, pulling his chair up to the table like we were finally getting down to business. "It's a Christian pilgrim route called the Camino, and is taking 1 month's walking from southern France to Santiago in the northwest of Spain." Having not seen Julian in 3 years, it took me a while to decode his lovable Germglish. "So," I clarified, "it's a pilgrimage path that starts in southern France, crosses the whole of Spain, and finishes in the northwestern city of Santiago?" "Yes," he confirmed, wiping beer from his moustache and pushing his curtain of hair from his eyes. "And it takes 1 month to walk, right?" "1 month's walking, yes." "And it's called the Camino?" "The Camino de Santiago, yes. And it's very old. More than 1,000 years old. You would love it. Lots of people from all over the world, not only Christians, are walking the path. There are special cheap pilgrim hostels and such beautiful sceneries and cities," he said with contagious enthusiasm. Before I could say I was sold, he carried on. "I was looking for your email to tell you to do it, but I didn't find it. I find you instead. Bah, it's a miracle," he said, looking up to the equally rare phenomenon of a blue London sky. "Okay, so I tell you now. You must do it." He stared me square in the eyes before sipping at his beer. Heading home on the right train that night, reflecting on an extraordinary day, I was convinced I'd met Julian on the wrong train so he could deliver the right message. This was a sign I could not ignore. I told myself that someday, sooner or later, when the time was right, I had to walk El Camino de Santiago, the road to Santiago.